So, gentlemen, ladies, and all the people around there, for the last 35 years, I've been building people, building organizations, building careers. And in the process, I made some lovely friends who have been with me for a lifetime, and some people who are with me for a lifetime, my best colleagues. A few days back, they were discussing about putting this across to a lot of people who are out there in the world on how did we do this? And they came up with this wonderful idea of a podcast. And I thought, let's go ahead. Let's do something which will make a difference to the lives of a lot of wonderful, wonderful people out there. So let's start. I've got Samyukta with me, and she would be the first one to put across some questions. I don't know whether dangerous, whether funny, whether serious. So I'm ready to batter down here.
Okay, so let's get right into it. When we look back in time, the olden days, or maybe not so even far back, before technology, before AI, before any of this, leaders used to purely take decision based on some of the data that they'd gathered and some on intuition. But in today's world, with technology having evolved so rapidly, a lot of leaders have tend to rely so heavily on data driven insights. So, you as a leader, having seen even times before this change, um, what percentage, or to not put a percentage, how much do you think a leader should rely on intuition versus data driven facts or figures?
Uh, wow. Okay, that's a nice question. If you really look at it, I always, when I'm sitting with my sales team, I ask them, how much of percentage would you put for preparation of a sales visit, and how much would you actually give as a percentage to the visit you do to a customer? The No one knows the correct answer, but with the experience, we understand 50% is the preparedness or getting ready or understanding about the customer. That's more important, and then the rest is the 50% which comes with the visit that you meet a customer.
Yeah.
I think the same goes with data and intuition. Okay, we get a lot of jargons of data analytics and how data is being used. Businesses like ours, or the SMEs, the small and medium enterprises that we run across, they do have data access. They do have access, and data is two types. One is the external data that is collected from the market for the organization. One is from the organization, which defines how well you're working. So I'll take an example of how big your potential accessible market is. That's a data that you derive from the outside. And how many of the potential customers are being visited by our sales teams.
Right.
So that is something that comes in with data.
Right.
Okay. When you compare these data, or when you take these data under your control, you can decide with the data of where to visit more, where who would be a qualified customer, who would be a grow customer. So what percentage of your time should be spent with a certain customer is defined by what business that customer is giving you, right? Now, if you have 5 of the same customers, or if you have 10 customers, out of which 5 are grow customers, 5 are saturated customers, and none are in qualified customers, and you have then you have an intuition. Who needs to visit those customers? I mean, if that XYZ person is good in a specific segment or a market vertical that guy operates in, and the customer would require that kind of a salesperson. So that's intuition that works on who should be visiting that customer. So it is completely based on the manager's intuitions, because no data can actually tell you that. So there is a person, a lot of things get into this. I could start from talking about DISC, which is maybe someday we'll talk in detail about that. But the DISC model very clearly mentions that a D personality cannot be met by a D personality, because things may not work out.
Right.
Okay, the reasons we'll discuss later, but those are not data based. Those are intuition based. or those are experience based decisions that you take.
Right.
So I think there is a 50% chance when you go with the right data, but it becomes 100% when that intuition is teamed up
Right.
with the data that is available with you. Hope I've answered your question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And is
Perfect.
that how you operate on a daily basis?
Absolutely, yes. It's not only how I operate, it's also how I ensure that people operate, because data is important. But even before that, how you collect the data is important. Where you get the data from is important, because there are a lot of organizations which are selling data today. I mean, we all know data is the latest or the new oil.
Yeah.
Okay, but what is required for you may have to be derived first. You may need to analyze that data and derive on what you require from that data. Not all the data is important for you. So it is a time consuming process because that requires intuition.
Yeah.
So to understand, analyze data, you require intuition onto what you would want from that data. Right?
Got it. Got it. Yeah, I
Perfect.
think the question was quite well answered.
Perfect. Thank you.
So for a 23-year-old or a 24-year-old entrepreneur, what would be the first book that you would suggest them to read to try and maybe learn a little bit about leadership or how they can navigate through the entire process of leadership?
I think books build people. That's what I very strongly believe in, and I can say from my experience with all the books that I've read, the best ones that you could go for is Magic of Thinking Big by David Schwartz, and Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. So these are two lovely books that can actually build the purpose. Because I think for every entrepreneur, they slowly lose the charm that and the reason why they've already, why they went for the business at the first place, why they wanted to do something. To ensure that the motivation remains, the devotion towards what the purpose, the devotion towards the purpose remains. I think these two are lovely reads, which can ignite that fire in the entrepreneur. So I strongly suggest Magic of Thinking Big and Think and Grow Rich.
Think and Grow Rich. Okay, these are books that I haven't read so I think it's going to surely be on my list next.
Absolutely yes. Absolutely yes.
So another question that I had in mind was, so I'm a 24-year-old entrepreneur who's just starting up, and when you start something yourself, you tend to have too much on your plate and you're trying to figure out where do you put your time and what are the most important things that you need to prioritize. So when you think earlier back when you were just starting, how did you prioritize tasks in a day when you had to do everything from A to Z?
I would start this because this is a lovely question, because with the amount of things that the entrepreneurs need to do now compared to when I started or when literally in the 80s and 90s when people started, today there is a lot to think about. And I always say the story. So there was this old man. He was standing on the platform of a railway station, obviously Indian railway station, as my connections are to India. So and he's got a timetable, a railway timetable in his hand, and he's waiting for the train to come. So the train was to arrive at 6:30. It was already 8, and this old man was pretty pissed off at the delay, which is very normal with Indian railways. It used to be. I don't know about now. And it's 7:30. It's 8, 8:30, 9. This man is hungry. He's tired. He just wants to somehow get his guests or whoever is coming on the train and go back home. But the train does not arrive until 10:30. At 11, he becomes so furious that he takes the timetable, goes it and throws it at the station master's table and say, "Why do you have a timetable when trains are not coming on time?" The station master, the railway station master, the answer that he gave, I think that was one of my lighthouses. He said, "Because there is a timetable, the trains are running late." You get it?
Yeah.
So I think the first and foremost that any entrepreneur needs to have, of course, the name, the brand name, these things come first. But then the business plan with a forecast of the first 5 years is very, very important. That is your timetable. You go according to the business plan that has been set month after month. At least for the first 3 years, you should have a month on month forecast done for everything that is an input and everything that's an output. Right? So once you have a business plan in place, you try to follow it to the dot.
Right.
And as time goes by, 6 months, 1 year down the line, you try tweaking things around.
Yeah.
Okay, and if in a year, I'm dead sure in a year it would be pretty clear on where the organization is going, and then you start your normal, attacking the challenges that come on the way. So the first thing I always very strongly believe as an entrepreneur, the business plan is the first thing that has to be put in place. Once that is in place, you will for sure understand that as the entrepreneur, as somebody who owns the business, having people or having products, the first things that would come in place is having the right people at the right positions. If you have the funding for that, or else you end up doing the sales, you end up doing the finance, you end up doing the marketing. So my situation was the same when I did the first business. I was handling sales, I was handling marketing, I was handling finance. But then, there is a lot of hard work that goes into it. There is nothing that you will be away from, unless and until you're a very heavily funded organization. Unfortunate, but I think that's the journey. That's what you're going to enjoy the most, because you will have a taste of everything, which will come handy 5 years, 6 years, 10 years down the line. So I think you should be involved in every single thing that is happening. When I say involved in every single thing, that is not macromanagement, but that is knowing and understanding what the organization requires. It could be people, it could be addition of new products, it could be something which is marketing. Yeah.
And I think that's truly what even builds a entrepreneur, having all these experiences and having gone through the entire journey.
Yes.
But throughout this journey, when you're repetitively doing the same thing again and again, and not always do you see results come in as quickly. And in situations like that, it can be really tough to kind of find motivation from within, to keep going and keep doing the same thing, hoping that you'll see results.
It's a nice word when you said motivation within. No one can motivate you other than you. When you do a business, the only thing that you would wake up is to ensure that everything goes right with that baby, that organization that you have started. It does not matter whether you started it alone, whether you started it with someone else, or you have people or not. The motivation should be the organization itself. So I think, motivation within, the organization becomes a reason for your motivation. And only then people can really look at the next day as something exciting.
Right.
I always say this, live for the next excitement. So keep building that. You know that, right?
Yeah. But I mean, it was great, these insights, I've seen you over the years, and it's always so exciting to see your point of view of things. And there's so much that, we as individuals being around you get to learn from you. So I hope you all are learning something as well. And let's take a short break, and then we'll come and ask him a couple more questions.
Welcome back, everyone, after the break. For those of you who thought Sam grew a beard, no, it's not Sam, it's Samit. I want to change the tone up a little bit, and ask you a wildcard question. There used to be a popular cartoon called Powerpuff Girls, where the story goes that a professor mixed 3 ingredients to create the perfect girls, superpower girls. So if I ask you in a very simple way, what are the 3 ingredients to create the perfect leader?
Good question. I think the 3 core things that will create a great leader in this industry would be, the first, of course, the work ethic. I think you can define work ethic in a lot of ways, but for me, being committed to the journey, being committed to the purpose, I think that's the first and foremost, having a great work ethic. The second, I think he should be a people man, a people's man. That's very, very important. Um, uh, the reason is I always believe that organizations are made to support a community, to support the society. Okay, money is a byproduct. Money is a byproduct of the businesses that you do. And the purpose of an organization is to ensure that the community is well off. Right? So, first comes the work ethic. The second is being a people's man. And third, and the core is there's one more thing that is important when you're talking about leaders. We're not talking about directors, we're not talking about vice presidents, executives, or entrepreneurs as such. We're talking about great leaders. Now, great leaders don't have to be owners, they don't need to be directors, as leaders without title. Robin Sharma has mentioned in his book, leaders don't have to have titles. So I think one of the most important things when it comes to leaders without title is to take responsibility. So work ethic, being a people's person, and the third most important is to accept responsibilities as they come, because as Spider-Man says, with great power comes great responsibilities. So leaders are being a leader is a great power. So I think responsibility is one more core ingredient to make your Wonder Girls or whatever you said.
I think that's a very good indication of how to become a good leader, or the qualities a leader should have.
Yep.
So another very different question. You've had a pretty long career.
35 years.
35 years. I think you've started at the bottom in terms of organization.
Rock bottom.
Rock bottom, right? And you've gone through 35 years of experience.
Yep.
But what about those people who are starting off now, right? Someone who's just graduated from college, someone who's going to their first job, or maybe just with 1 or 2 years experience. Getting to a leader, we know the path, we have a lot of books, but how do you become a good person first? How do you start in an organization? Not to use the word employee, but how do you start off? What is three things that would help anybody start off their careers?
I doubt if I may be able to give you 3 points or three particular things that you need to do to become or start your career or reach somewhere in your life. I think the first and foremost thing, and I don't know if there is any college made for it where you can go and study that, is common sense.
Yeah, common sense.
I don't know how that can be built, if you really ask me. I seriously don't know, because when I interview people, the first thing I look at is if they have common sense or not.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that I look at. Because with common sense comes one thing. To be a great leader, you need to know what not to do than what to do. Okay. So to understand what not to do, because as you start in your careers, you will have leaders, you'll have managers, you'll have people above you in your organizations. A lot of them do a lot of great stuff, great things for people and the organization, but there are a lot of things that go wrong. So the reason could be that person's affinity towards something which might not be right for the organization or the process. So working with them, you need to understand. So you learn a lot from your colleagues. Some colleagues are great. You look at them, you want to be like them, and some you would not want to be.
Yeah.
And I have always learned from the ones that I don't want to be. I try to understand what are those traits that people don't like that person, and I tried to eliminate it from my while I was growing up, I tried to eliminate it from my book of success.
Right.
So I think what's more important is common sense and to learn what not to do. What to do is something which is pretty common. You can learn from a lot of people that will come in your life. There are books that you can read, understand what great leaders have done.
Yeah.
But many of them have missed out what not to do.
Okay. Yeah, it's a very good way to look at it. Like you said, it's very important to know the wrong answer as well.
Absolutely.
And I think
There's
at least-
that thing that Alfred Hitchcock, while investigating his cases as a detective, the law of deduction,
Yeah, the law.
as you call it, right?
Yes.
So that's something.
Yeah, yeah. I think I've personally benefited a lot from knowing knowing what not to do as well, because you have to you have to ask yourself, what is the consequence of not doing this today?
Absolutely, yes.
Right?
Absolutely.
And
yes.
then it puts a clear perspective in your mind to what is the right thing to do and what we have to do today to move forward. Great. So, as many people know, you're a very passionate cricket player. So, can I ask you where you started your cricketing journey?
long back. When I started my career.
Yeah, when did you first play your match, or how did you get into cricket?
Oh, my first match, or the first time I ever touched a cricket bat, was when I was 11 years old.
Okay.
That was the first time I touched a cricket bat. That was the first time I understood what a cricket ball looks like, feels like. Because the first day I got hit on my legs with the ball because I was playing without a pad. So this was during my 8th grade, back in India while I was studying. So that's when my cricketing journey started. I played that game at a very senior level till the age of 21.
Okay.
Then I took a sabbatical for around 30 years and started playing now.
Okay.
So it's been 3 years since I've come back into cricket, and I'm pretty actively involved
Yeah.
in the game.
Yeah. So the question I might ask you now might require you to think a little bit,
Okay.
or might be very different to what the questions I've already asked you. Knowing you, once you put your mind to something, you reach that goal. So why isn't Sumesh today coach of the Indian cricket team, or why did not Sumesh play for India? As it was your passion, it is your passion. You're extremely good at it. Why not? Why isn't Sumesh in the Indian cricket team?
Wow. Okay. It's yeah. I don't know how to think about it, but yeah. The reasons, there are a lot of reasons, but thanks for asking this. I think the first reason is I understood I was not good enough.
Okay.
Passion is something different, and understanding to what level, because I mean, you have 1 billion people in India, and you are one of the million who have passion for the game of cricket. There were 1 million more people who were much better or had an even deeper passion for the game of cricket.
Okay.
So when life puts Yorkers and full tosses onto you,
Yeah.
the cricket was forgotten.
Yeah.
And today, thankfully, I've at the age of 50, I completed my level 1 coaching. I'm a ICC level 1 coach.
Oh wow.
Yeah, so that's completed.
Yeah.
And rightly said, I would have loved to be the Indian coach, but there were many people who were much better than me, and thank God I understood that.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thankful to.
Yeah. Very interesting answer, because it's creating a lot more questions in my head.
Okay.
So I can point out one thing from your answer. You said you realized at a point you're not good enough.
Yep.
Right, and that was on the cricket ground.
Yes.
Now, what about all those people who are working hard? Previous question, the starting of their career. What if they get the feeling that they're not good enough for the company they're working for, or maybe someone wants to become a project manager? What if they have doubts like this, where they tell themselves they're not good enough? How do you deal with this kind of scenario? I think the same way you've dealt with the cricket. What is your recommendation for people who have maybe a little less confidence in what they're doing currently? Is it something that they should change and find out something that they're good at, or maybe it can be worked on?
See, these are tough times. Okay, and I can say more than 50 to 60% of the people who are in their present positions would not be happy with what they're doing, and they would want to do something else. They would have a passion for something else, and I'm talking specifically about UAE or Dubai. You know, they would have a singer in them. They would have a scientist in them.
Yeah.
They would have a teacher in them, but then they would end up working in different places. Okay. The most important part of your life when such things at in your career or where growth is a component that you are analyzing. I think the most important thing is having a mentor.
Yeah.
Many people, unfortunately, do not or miss out on having a mentor. So I think at your phase in your career, you need to have people. Now, a mentor need not be an industrialist, need not be somebody who owns organizations. They could be in your family, they could be your friends, they could be, but someone who can go back to. And I always say this, that if you're sick, you don't go to a barber. If you want to cut your hair, you don't go to a doctor.
Yeah.
So you need to look at people who have done something at some stage of their life and they have been successful. Okay. Again, if you get into the definition of success, and things are different, but over here, when you're starting a career, if you want to become a project manager and you are at, say, the level of a technician or somebody who, what he needs to do is be patient. Patience, it's the fast food era or the era where everything is available the next minute. An Amazon, an email are all examples of that. Zomato is all examples of that. Now, patience is a virtue which not everybody possesses.
Yeah.
So, and nobody teaches you. So that is something that I think will only come through understanding of others' lives, of what time period it took them to succeed. And books are one of the most natural ways to ensure that you build that amount of patience in you.
Yeah.
So patience and a great mentor can be of a great support. They both can work wonders in such situations.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Having a good mentor defines kind of.
Yeah, and I think as an organization, that's what I have created. That's the ecosystem that is created in all the organizations that I'm working with, and that's one thing that ensures that the attrition rates are lower than 1%.
Yeah.
So I think that's the most important thing, that they should be given an environment where they are able to succeed, not just survive.
Yeah.
Yeah, and at both personal and professional levels.
Perfect. I think having a good mentor should be the aim of every young person today, or finding a good mentor is very paramount. Great. So I think it's time for another break. We'll be right back. Thank you so much.
So here we come to the end of this episode. But before we wrap it up, I want to ask you if you have anything that you want to say to me, to the audience, to Sumit. We'd love to hear.
Yeah. The only thing I would like to say to whoever is watching is there are a lot of successful people around. I'm not comparing myself to them, but I have learned all these things in the last 35 years from a lot of successful people around the world. And I've built something which is, I believe, is awesome in terms of what the organizations provide the people who are responsible for running it. And I would love if every one of my colleagues get onto something and become successful in their life. And that is the true ultimate aim or goal that I have for everyone. And as anyone who's watching it, if there is anything that you need to know from us, if there is anything that you would like to understand better, I'm here. I would give you my own version of it and what has made me successful and the examples of what has made us who we are. Thank you for now.
Thank you so much. See you again in the next episode. Take care.